From London, this is the Standard Podcast, and I'm Mark Blunden.
The hole in our public finances this year, which recurs every year, the compensation schemes that they did not fund, and their failure to assess the scale of the challenges facing our public services means that this budget raises taxes by £40 billion. Any Chancellor standing here today would have to face this reality.
Chancellor of the Exchequer Rachel Reeves has announced £40 billion of tax rises in Labour's first budget for nearly 15 years. In a 77-minute speech before a packed House of Commons, the UK's first female Chancellor announced tax hikes to help fix the foundations of the economy. Reeves plans to raise £25 billion from employers' national insurance contributions, plus increases to capital gains tax, while also making changes to inheritance tax and stamp duty.
In today's budget, I am announcing an increase in employers' national insurance contributions. We will increase the rate of employers' national insurance by 1.2 percentage points to 15% from April 2025. And we will reduce the secondary threshold, the level at which employers start paying national insurance on each employee's salary, from £9,100 a year to £5,000. This will raise £25 billion per year by the end of the forecast period.
Billions of pounds in public funding was also pledged for the NHS schools building, the national minimum wage, GB energy, HMRC reform, cladding removal, defence and compensation for victims of the infected blood and post office Horizon scandals.
Because of the difficult decisions that I have taken on tax, welfare and spending, I can announce that I am providing a £22.6 billion increase in the day-to-day health budget and a £3.1 billion increase in the capital budget over this year and next. This is the largest real terms growth in day-to-day NHS spending outside of COVID since 2010.
In a boost for London, the Chancellor confirmed that HS2 would be extended via tunnelling to Euston.
We are securing delivery of the project between Old Oak Common and Birmingham, and we are committing the funding required to begin tunnelling work to London Euston station. This will catalyse private investment into the local area, delivering jobs and growth.
It's all part of the government's plan to tackle the so-called £22 billion black hole in the public finances, a line-by-line breakdown of which Reeves promised will be published. But afterwards, the opposition Tories accused Labour of breaking manifesto pledges. So let's look at this much-hyped and much-feared first budget from Reeves for the Starmer government. And we're joined from a very busy Parliament by the London Standard's political editor, Nicholas Cecil. Nick, what were your key takeaways today?
Well, this is a big budget. So you're talking about £40 billion worth of tax rises, more than £32 billion extra of borrowing over the next 5 years, and a startling £22 billion extra being ploughed into the day-to-day health budget. So it's very big figures, and it shows that Sir Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves want to make bold and brave decisions, but they are risky because dealing with such large sums, pouring such large sums of money into public services, the big question is, will it be money wisely spent?
And in terms of that money being widely spent, what do we know now about Labour's direction of travel in terms of their tax and spending plans?
It's very much what Labour's critics would say is old Labour. So it's high taxes, big borrowing and big investment. And this is very much the Labour way. If you look at Britain's public services, many of them are in a very poor state after 14 years of Tory government. So I think the Labour government can make the case that there is this need for huge investment in Britain's hospitals, broader healthcare system, education system, transport and so on. And so they've basically gone for it. And we wait to see whether this turns out to actually improve things in Britain, public services, boost economic growth in Britain, or whether the state is less able than individuals to decide how to spend money wisely without wasting it.
There was also the £1 billion to remove cladding, the HS2 tunnelling work, confirmed GB Energy, some of what you could class as winners, but it's not been great for businesses who are going to be bearing the brunt of these NI rises.
So businesses are being asked to carry the main burden of this tax-raising budget. But there's no such free as a free lunch with taxation. So if you increase taxes on businesses, a lot of that will feed through into consumer prices and into workers' wages. So it's not a free hit just to raise taxes on businesses. But they are being asked to really come up with a large sum of money to fund the government's plans. What the government can say, though, that is that if it is correct in what it intends to do and it can improve public services, then these businesses will get healthier workers, they'll get better educated workers, they'll get roads that are easier to transport their goods around the country. So it's a big gamble, but the Labour government can make a case for it. We just need to wait to see whether that they can deliver what they say they can.
Let's go to the ads coming up. Has Labour stuck to their manifesto pledges? Why not hit follow? In the meantime, give us a rating. Welcome back. Nick, in terms of the pre-budget concerns, shall we say, do you think it's lived up to that? Better or worse, do you think?
Well, I think the numbers are bigger than what we expected, certainly in terms of the tax rises, the borrowing and the money for the NHS. The one thing which wasn't delivered, which had been quite widely mooted, was that we were expecting the freeze on the thresholds for paying income tax to be extended for another 2 years, i.e. till 2030. And this would have meant more people being dragged into paying the basic rate and the high rate of tax. But the Chancellor decided against that. Another impact of this budget, which Londoners and people beyond the capital will be interested in, is that the official forecaster, the Office for Budget Responsibility, also says that the mortgage rates are going to be pushed up by Ms. Reeves's fiscal plans, not by a huge amount, by about 0.3%. But so there will be some upward pressure on interest rates, and that feeds through into higher mortgage bill.
On the day that he took office, the Prime Minister said that he wanted to restore trust to British politics with action, not words. Well, today, his actions speak for themselves, with a budget that contains broken promise after broken promise. And reveals the simple truth that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have not been straight with the British people. Time and again, we Conservatives warned Labour would tax, borrow and spend far beyond what they were telling the country.
Nick, what was the Conservatives' response? Obviously, Rishi Sunak's last PMQs and last budget on either front bench.
The Conservatives tore into the budget. First of all, that they don't accept that there's a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. The Chancellor has published a detailed document to try and prove that case, but it's a debate about the scale of it. Yes, there is a black hole. Is it £22 billion? Well, they'll have to disagree over that one. But the Tories see this as very much old Labour, taxing more, borrowing more and spending more, and that they will argue that ultimately this won't deliver the better public services that Labour is promising.
On July the 4th, the country voted for change. Yeah. This government was given a mandate to restore stability to our economy and to begin a decade of national renewal. Yeah. To fix the foundations and deliver change.
What's your view on whether this budget broadly stuck to the Labour manifesto in word and spirit and their working people pledge?
I think the key question here is what Labour can get away with. So I think if they'd frozen the thresholds for longer, for another 2 years, the thresholds for paying income tax, that would probably have been seen as a breach of the Labour manifesto. In terms of increasing national insurance on employers, the Institute for Fiscal Studies believes it is a breach of the manifesto. They're very, very well respected. But I suspect Keir Starmer's government can get away with it because it's not a direct hit on workers. So it's a grey area, but I don't think that this will come back to haunt the Prime Minister, provided he can actually make best use of these extra billions to improve public services.
And that's The Standard. For the latest news, head over to standard.co.uk. This podcast is back tomorrow at 4 p.m.